Well, thank you, David, for having me. And I want to stress that it's interesting the choice of language chosen, Hebrew. It would have been even more powerful had this message been communicated as it was in Arabic, and that would have been even stronger. But I think in essence what we have here is an Arab who seeks life and seeks to improve and seeks to advance versus another Arab, a terrorist leader, who deals in death, in destruction, and doesn't have future hope and can only promise for Gazans more war and more bloodshed under the disguise of what they call mukawama.
And coming to you, Ariel, I want to get a different perspective on Ram here. Notably, the party has taken a type of break, I don't know how else to phrase it here, from the coalition during some of the height of the unrest around Jerusalem this last month. But it appears the latest are saying that they're back in the coalition's fold. What kind of comments do you have around Ram's seeming departure and return and on the status of the government, including Ram, right now at this point?
Hi, David. Thanks for having me and good luck with your show. I'm not sure that Ram is completely back in the coalition, and actually everything is shaking in this coalition. I will remind you and the list and our viewers that the government, the coalition, already lost the 61 Knesset member, and now it's equal between the coalition and the opposition.
Right.
And inside Ram, going to your question, inside Ram, Mansour Abbas wants to keep the cooperation with Bennett, with Lapid, but other Knesset members in his party and other powers in his party wants to leave. So I definitely want to say it's final. Unfortunately, we saw another terror attack on last Saturday, last Shabbat. If there will have another terror attacks, it will have probably political meanings. And going to Sinwar's speech that you wrote, I think 2 points that have to be mentioned. First of all, Sinwar called Palestinians in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, to keep doing terror attacks. And that means that also after the Ramadan, we might suffer from terror attacks. That's one point. And the second one, I would say, is that Bennett, the Prime Minister, just a few hours ago, I would say, used Sinwar's speech by saying since Hamas wants the government to fall down, that tells us that it is a good government for Israel. So that's, I would say, a political aspect or nuance that we had here as well.
Coming back to you, Jonathan, here. You touched on an important point here, the power of just making these announcements, standing up in front of the cameras and making these speeches now. We saw Mansour Abbas do it, albeit in Hebrew here. What's your take on the state of Hamas based on what you saw from Yahya Sinwar? He's calling on Israeli Arabs as well, naming the cities, went down a list, calling on them to pick up arms. What's your read on the state of Hamas, given the display on stage there this weekend?
So what I think Hamas is doing is they're trying to eat the cake and have it. They're trying to destabilize Judea and Samaria and to pressure Israel and the Palestinian Authority in Judea and Samaria by inciting violence and by really going out very strong in social media and other types of media, trying to incite attacks. So far, not very successful, but that may change. They've, of course, been at it at the Temple Mount for the last month and a half, inciting violence and trying to claim ownership of that. So they're trying to have that cake, but they're trying to eat the cake, but they're trying to have it as well without any escalation in Gaza. And you can see that they've kept a relatively tight control over the Gaza Strip, and there's only been 2 instances of rocket fire, probably by the Islamic Jihad. And that reads as Hamas trying to pressure Israel from Judea and Samaria and inside Israel, Israeli Arabs, while simultaneously continuing to enjoy economic and social benefits provided by the Israeli government. Another thing that I think is interesting is Iranian involvement, which, of course, is nothing new. But over the weekend, there were interesting speeches made by the commander of the Quds Force, again, trying to cement the relationship and the bond between Iran, the Shia basis, and Sunni terrorist organizations that are fighting against Israel.
Coming back to you, Ariel, another apparent challenge to the Israeli government, let's put it this way, emerged recently as well. And I want to get both of your comments on this, but to take it away from the threats from without, let's call it Hamas, Iran, 2 separate envelopes arrived to the Prime Minister's residence, as far as I understand here, with bullets in them in recent time, I think both in the last week or so, week and a half. In one case, it was addressed to Prime Minister Bennett's teenage son, in fact, and threatening harm to Bennett and his family here. So taking this to an extreme, can you describe the political climate that we're in right now, that the significance that produces these type of internal threats, extreme threats to the Prime Minister and his family?
Yes, it is definitely, David, a reason to be very worried. But if I may, I just want to add one point before up, Jonathan, about Hamas trying to influence the Israeli Arab population. That's a new development, a significant one, and makes me at least very worried, because if Hamas is not only, shows himself as protecting Jerusalem, but now also as a protector of Arabs, I don't know, in Haifa or in Arabi, in the north, in the Galil, that's a very important development that we, as the State of Israel, definitely has to notice. Going to your question, so yes, those bullets that were sent to Bennett and to his son are definitely, I would say, even a reason to be frightened, because we didn't see, I think, since Rabin was assassinated in 1995, we didn't see such level of violence against politicians, against Israeli politicians. Now, Bennett is suffering, I would say, from actually a delegitimization in the right wing. He's attacked by the Likud. He's attacked by many of his party members in his party, which still seeing the moves that he did last year, establishing this government with Ram, with the extreme left. All those people see it as, I would say, betrayal. There is no other word. So the atmosphere is very, very hot, in my view, too hot. And definitely my point of view is people have disagreements. That's all right. Israel is democracy. But the level has to go down, not to make it personal, definitely not to use or to threaten with violence. But unfortunately, we didn't hear, even from Netanyahu, the chairman of the opposition, we didn't hear until now any condemnations to those bullets that were sent to Naftali Bennett, and that's another reason to be worried.
Jonathan, coming to you on this topic as well, and from your perspective and career in the public relations field here, I believe the police have said both these letters with the bullets in them came from 2 different sources at this point. They're saying this. We're led to ask, why did they make it public exactly? What do you think the calculation was for the Prime Minister's office to make these public? In other words, one maybe leading to the other already, perhaps. But can you comment on this, decide to make this threat public? What do you think went into that?
Well, I think that connects with Ariel's comments before about the political situation and the pressure that the Prime Minister is under. And that's probably the reason, one part of the motivation to make it public. I think it's a good call, because I think that there should be no tolerance whatsoever for political violence and political bullying of that kind. We've already seen the horrible consequences that our political murder had on the Israeli landscape, on Israeli politics, on Israeli society. So there should be zero tolerance for it. And that's probably the reasoning behind what Bennett and his media team are doing. And, in today's time, we also know that whenever something happens, it's only a matter of time before it leaks, especially if it's important and newsworthy. So either you do it and you get it out first, or somebody else will do it for you, and then maybe one of your political rivals will spin and use it against you.
And Ariel, again, on this topic, I think you touched on this, but for our viewers especially, is it common for Israeli prime ministers to receive internal death threats?
As far as I remember, David, again, I don't think we saw it. Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I remember, I don't think we saw such events since 1995. Yeah. I'm very sorry to say it. But the worst threats were a lot of tensions. We all remember the harsh demonstrations against Netanyahu, especially during his last years. And the rhetoric over there was definitely too hard as well. I can remember an event that someone painted the picture that actually the meaning was to hang Netanyahu, which was also awful.
Right.
But an action of sending bullets, I can't remember such events again since Rabin.
Feels something a little more insidious, dangerous in these anonymous bullets arriving in the mail than slogans portrayed at a major political rally or something. Again, not to belittle some of the issues that Prime Minister Netanyahu had faced in his time, but certainly. Jonathan, anything else to add here? We're in our last minute. If you want to add something to this conversation, thank you both for now.